Hello and thanks for joining me. At the time of recording this video, the new BSA Gold Star is just starting to hit some dealers in the UK. At least demo bikes are. I don't think customers are actually getting the bikes yet. And so of course there's been a mad rush amongst YouTubers to review this new bike, and inevitably they're all comparing it to the Royal Enfield 650 Twins. And so of course, yeah, as with everybody else, I've been watching these videos with great interest. And I have to say that I have mixed feelings about this new BSA. It looks interesting, but I have a few reservations, and I think my reservations are probably the same as most people's. You know, one is that dirty grey radiator on the front of the bike. They're trying to capture the image, the look of the classic BSAs, and yet because of the modern emission requirements, it's a water-cooled bike with a huge radiator, which for my mind just really spoils that look. Also, on top of that, if you look more closely at the finish, the engine casings, the barrels and everything all seem to be powder coated. And if my experience of powder coated engines on Jap bikes from the late 70s and early 80s is anything to go by, it's not going to be that durable, and you can expect in a few years for that to start flaking off and getting aluminium oxide underneath, corrosion, what have you, and for it to start looking very tatty. So I do have some reservations, but looking at the bike and and the enthusiasm, passion there is for these modern retros bikes like that, it just makes me ask myself, well, if you're into a bike like that, that's to say you want a bike for its looks, its styles and its image, you're not necessarily into it for power and speed and what have you, why not just go and buy a classic? There are many benefits of going and buying an older bike, a classic bike. So as I was thinking about it, riding along, I've come up with 5 reasons why I think you should buy a classic bike. So here goes. So number 1, it is an asset which will appreciate in value, which you cannot say for most modern bikes. Classic bikes seem to be going up and up in price. Every time I look in the bike adverts, they are higher and higher price, and they're going for silly money, some of them. And I'm not just talking about old British bikes, I'm talking about any classic bikes. Second point, and this is that even though the prices are going up, in many cases, if you choose the right bike, they are cheaper to buy than these modern retro bikes. So the Royal Enfield in the UK is about $6,500, and the new BSA is sort of, depending on which model you get, sort of $800 to £1,000 more than that. So you're paying sort of £6,500–7,000 for one of these cheaper end retro bikes. Never mind the Triumphs. You can get yourself a really nice classic bike for a lot less money than that, and one which is going to hold its value and appreciate into the future. So not only are they a joy to own and to ride, but they are also a good investment, or at least that's the excuse you can tell yourself or tell the missus or whoever. So my third advantage is that they are much cheaper to run. So if you buy a bike that is over 30 years old, you don't have to pay road tax on it in the UK here. You don't have to have an MOT each year, so that saves you a substantial amount of money. And also the insurance is substantially cheaper. I pay hardly anything on the insurance on this Triumph and on my Tiger Cub compared to on my modern bikes, so they are substantially cheaper to run. Okay, benefit number 4 then is that these bikes, generally speaking, are simpler to service. Now, I know a comment I'm going to get in the comments below is, oh, I don't want to buy an old bike because they're unreliable and they're always leaking oil and you always have to work on them. Well, if you're buying a bike for the joy of ownership, like one of these retro type bikes, then working on the bike and tinkering on it is part of the fun. And they do not have to be unreliable, nor do they have to be a lot of work. Now, I'm probably risking fate by saying this, but you know, my older bikes are very reliable. I'm happy to jump on this Triumph Bonneville and take it anywhere. And so, you know, I have no fear about reliability on old bikes like this, and yet they are so much simpler to service. Everything's easy to get to. Everything's, you know, these bikes were basically built for their owners to work on them themselves. These were built in an era where if you were a biker, you did your own servicing, you did your own maintenance, you did your own repairs. So they're relatively straightforward to work on. And so benefit number 5 then, and this is something which I'm really aware of right now as I ride this bike, they are so much lighter than the modern bikes, and as a result I think they're just a lot more fun to ride. If you follow this channel, you know that I've got one of the modern Triumph Bonnevilles. I've got the Scrambler 1200, and that is a huge beast compared to this old, you know, 750 twin. When you get on this bike, it feels about the same size and weight as a modern, well, I was going to say a modern 250, even a modern 125 actually. It's a very small, light, agile, nimble bike. And so, you know, as riders are getting older and they're less physically able to move bigger bikes around, something like a Classic's a lot more manageable to manoeuvre in and out of the garage and, you know, car parks. And yeah, and when you're actually riding it, because it's light, it's very nimble, very flickable, absolutely perfect for riding on back roads like this. So that's just off the top of my head 5 reasons why I think you should, if you're interested in a modern retro, why you should consider a classic bike as an alternative. Now, as I said a moment ago, I know I'm going to get a flurry of comments about, now they're old, they're unreliable, I'd rather have a modern bike with an electric start, what have you. Fair enough, fire away with your comments below. These are always discussion pieces, these videos, so I'd love to hear your opinion and your feeling on these matters. Thanks very much for watching. As always, ride safe. See you soon. Bye.